Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. I am your host this evening, and I couldn't be more excited to be able to continue to talk about this 2025 Los Angeles Dodgers team. They are in first place right now. They're 3.5 games up on San Francisco, 5 games up on San Diego, 8 games up on Arizona, and a lot of games up on the Colorado Rockies. They are in a pretty solid position right now as we sit here on June 23rd. And we are starting to get into a little bit more of a serious evaluation process for this team because we are about halfway through the season. We are, 79 games into the season, so we're basically right at about the halfway point to be able to evaluate where the Dodgers are at right now and to be able to find a little bit of trends with this team. There's a lot of good things, particularly on the offensive side, both up and down the system to be excited about. The question remains, where is this pitching staff at and where is it going to be going forward? We'll dive into some of those questions. This show today, I don't really have a whole lot exactly planned for this show, only because didn't really have a whole lot of prep time to be able to prepare for the show. But we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm curious to be able to interact with you guys, be able to go back and forth with you, answer whatever questions that you got. We'll also dive into where the numbers say right now, as well as, okay, since we are basically halfway through the season, we can actually start to make real observations about where players are at and what potential moves might be done and what moves might need to be done for the Dodgers going forward. We'll be able to answer that. Just letting you guys know what's going on here. Dodgers Dawgs on Dodgers Daily, the YouTube channel that we have right here. Casey's going to be releasing some interviews coming up. Actually, I haven't had a chance to watch some of the interviews that he's released. I know he's interacted with Nick Frasso. He interacted with James Outman. He just released today an interview with Emmett Sheehan, which we might dive into that a little bit. I don't think there's too much there that the Dodgers optioned him back down to AAA. But I think he very much is going to play an important role going forward for the Dodgers team. But Casey was able to interview him. There also is going to be some additional interviews that are going to be released throughout the week, so please stay tuned and actually watch those interviews that they have. Those are the best stuff that we put up. They're far more important than me just talking into the camera right here. So I highly encourage you to be able to interact and go watch some of those videos as well. So just want to give you a heads up that that's coming up. For me, as far as the rest of the week, I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to be on with Casey. Still trying to work things out. I will be in Fort Wayne with the greatlakesloons, the high A affiliate of the Dodgers, quite a bit this week. I'm hoping to go down there probably 3 times this week. I was originally scheduled to go down there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but there's a lot of storms in the area that might come through, so it might be dependent on the weather when I'm going to go down there. So keep an eye out. We should hopefully be doing a live show, Casey and I, at some point this week as well. As right now, I want to get into the comment section, and then we will dive into some of the numbers if we do that, or any sort of topic that you guys want to dive into. Justin Lamas, thank you very much for joining us. Hey, Austin, this series is important because we need to maintain our 29.5 game lead over Colorado. Can't give them any life, any chance they can catch us. I didn't know it was 29.5 games that the Dodgers are up. But yeah, no, anytime that you're going in against a division, going against somebody in your division, you want to make sure that you win a lot of those games, because the worst thing that could happen is the Dodgers to lose all 3 games and then Colorado to only be 26.5 games back in the division. Of course, slightly being sarcastic in that. But it is important because this is a part of the schedule that the Dodgers are at, which they're going to be playing 3 against Colorado. I believe they're going to be playing 3 at Kansas City, 3 in Colorado, 3 at Kansas City. Then they're going to be playing against the White Sox. I believe they have next Monday off as well. There's a couple of off days. This is a really good opportunity for the Dodgers to be able to grow and expand their lead in the division. These are the opponents that you have to take advantage of. Dating back to the series that the Dodgers just played, they just got off a series against the Washington Nationals after a very tough competition against the San Diego Padres, in which the series was very emotional, very animated. The Dodgers were able to find a way to overcome a lot of those emotions and still win the series against the Washington Nationals in a series that after that stretch that the Dodgers were on, very well could have been a trap series for them. But, and I think you saw that during the game early yesterday when the Dodgers were down, their offense didn't seem to have life. This offense that the Dodgers have can go off just like in an instant. And we saw that with Max Muncy hitting the grand slam, hitting another home run, a 3-run home run to give him 7 RBIs on the day. You got to see a lot of really good plate appearances up there. You got to see Dalton Rushing go out there and reach base 4 times. A lot of good stuff can happen with this offense, and they were able to win 2 out of 3, which is really good because San Francisco and San Diego, while I don't think that they are at the exact level that the Dodgers are, these are the series that you want to take advantage of to be able to help maintain your lead. And not just the lead in the division, but also the fight for the number 1 seed in the postseason. Seeding in the postseason can have a really big impact on what happens. And especially when you get to play in Dodger Stadium, that is a really big advantage for you. So this upcoming series against the Colorado Rockies, well, it doesn't really have a big impact as far as the seeding or as far as the placement with Colorado and the Dodgers in the division. It could have a big impact if you don't take advantage of these games. What could happen going forward with teams like the Mets, teams like the Phillies, or Chicago if they're still competing for the top spot in the National League. So, biggest series for the Dodgers, just like every series, is got to go out and win these series and take advantage of the schedule when it is presented to you. Craig Osterberg, thank you very much for joining us. Hi back to yourself. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, hi back to you as well. Just Lamas was just saying, got to take advantage of the easy part of our schedule. We have the easiest or second easiest from here on out. Yes, but that also is something where second easiest, worst easiest, you also want to make sure that you're not falling into a groove of thinking that you're way better than everybody else and compete in these series as if they were or as if they were one of the better teams in the league. You want to go out there and keep that fight that the Dodgers have because you don't want to lose that as you enter towards the later part of the season, as you enter towards the postseason. Michael K, thank you very much for joining us. A lot of people don't like position players pitching, so how about this? Release Conforto and bring up a pitcher as a position player solely to compete out of reach games. An interesting idea, one that I don't think Major League Baseball, because they would understand who that particular player is, I don't think that they would completely agree to that, meaning that if a player comes up as a pitcher, I think they would have to maintain themselves as a pitcher. But it's definitely a unique idea because one of the things with the structure of where Major League Baseball is you can only have 13 pitchers on a Major League Baseball roster. There's a lot of intriguing arguments to say that should increase to try to give more guys rest. There's some people that disagree with that, or there was even some rumors earlier about Major League Baseball wanting to limit that in order to increase the value of starting pitchers. I think I lean a little bit more to you have to have at least 13, maybe even more, just to give more guys additional rest with the injuries that we have. But it's an interesting conversation. But as far as the structure of where Major League Baseball I don't know what exactly happened. I believe we are back on right now. Let me know if we are back on. I don't know what happened right there. Screen just got frozen, so I think we should be live and should be back right now. Let me know if we're still experiencing some issues. But as far as what I was talking about before, the structure of where Major League Baseball is, putting in somebody who's a pitcher but saying that they're a position player, I just don't think Major League Baseball would ever agree to that. But it is certainly a unique strategy to be able to do because there's an argument. There's because of the positional versatility that Hae-Sung Kim, the positional versatility that Kike Hernandez has. There's an argument that you could say that they have enough players to be able to cover that position if they needed to, and that they don't necessarily need a 13th position player. I just don't think Major League Baseball would ever be able to allow that to happen going forward. CNAV, Christopher Navarro, thank you very much for joining us. Good evening, Austin and the Dodgers Dawgs. Justin Lames, just curious, why do people say the jump to AA is the most difficult jump in the minors? Why not AA to AAA or low to high A? Why high A to high A to AA? It's an interesting question. That's actually a question that I would probably direct a little bit more to Casey because he gets to see the AA action a lot more. Obviously, I get to experience and see a lot of the high A action as opposed to the AA action. I think it just, in most part, has to come down to a player's ability to execute more. Especially down at the lower levels of the minor league system, you see a lot of guys with a lot of raw skills, but they don't necessarily know exactly how to execute them completely. You see this a lot with especially some of the pitchers that Great Lakes has right now, or even some of the pitchers that Rancho has. There's a lot of skill. There's a lot of talent. It's not always the best execution, which means that there are different strategies or different things that you can take advantage of if you are a talented hitter, or if you are a pitcher and you know that for hitters, they might have some holes in some of their swings. Those become much more limited, or the execution phase becomes a lot better for players at the upper levels of the system. So I don't know what exactly it is about the jump from high A to AA that makes that execution piece a lot more difficult, but that seems to be a repeated trend, and I think it just has to do with a player's ability to be able to execute a lot more consistently. There's a lot more consistency from there. So I think that's more of what we're doing on. Tracy, thank you very much for joining us. You're the best, Austin. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. CNAV, who's been the better hitter in the last 30 days? Mookie or Freddie Freeman? Our MVPs haven't been hitting. Yeah, so let's actually go ahead. Let's see. I believe the audio should be fine. Let me know if the audio is still doing okay with that. I don't know what exactly is going on with the stream today. Something's going on. But let's go ahead, and I'm actually going to go ahead and pull up some of the position player numbers because I think we should take a look to see where things are at on the position players wise, to be able to help evaluate where this team is at. We'll also look at the last 30 days. We'll look through the month of June to be able to see where things are at. So this right here, courtesy of Fangraphs. There might be some ads and stuff that popped up, so don't worry about that. This is where the team is at right now. So we can see the sorted by Fangraphs WAR, just overall season numbers where the team is at. So we can see Shohei Ohtani, best player or best hitter on the team, or has provided the most value WAR-wise for the team, particularly because he has significantly a lot more plate appearances than Will Smith, who plays catcher just about every single day. Shohei Ohtani, 175 WRC+, plus, Will Smith, 171. These two guys are easy all-stars getting voted in. Andy Pages, you have a couple more days to be able to vote for Andy Pages to get into the All-Star game. He currently has a 133 WRC plus, hitting 292, 330, 512. He's been doing absolutely amazing. Freddie Freeman still has good numbers overall. We'll get into his numbers over the last little bit. Mookie Betts, though, has been the surprising player to keep an eye out for, because he's only hitting 254, 338, 391 with a 106 WRC+. plus. He still has been producing positive WAR, particularly because his defense at the shortstop position has been much better than I think we all anticipated it was going to be. But it has been a much more of a struggle for Mookie Betts on the offensive side of the plate. And we'll dive into some of the most recent numbers in the month of June in just a minute. Max Muncy. Remember when Max Muncy was really struggling at the beginning of the season? He has improved his numbers enough to put up a 131 WRC+. 31% better than league average, 1.7 WAR on the season. He has, and you look at the walks, you look at the strikeouts, that totally is right in line with the character, with the type of person that Max Muncy is. I think when you're looking to evaluate where these players are at, you want to, especially with an aging group of individuals, with a lot of players that are getting towards the further part of their career, you want to see how drastic the drop-off is, to see how quickly guys, as they enter and start to get into the aging curve of their career, how quickly is that descent. And with Max Muncy, I think there was some concern because he's, 34, 35 years old, that some of the production is going to drop off. And this is really true because with position players that require their bats to be effective in order for them to be a valuable player, you have to see their offense be able to contribute in really solid ways. And with Max Muncy, despite the first month of the season where it was very much a struggle, his bat has gone completely off, and it's been vintage Max Muncy, and his season numbers are right in line with his career numbers to say that he's pretty much the exact same type of player. With Mookie Betts, it's a very different equation because you're seeing the offense start to tail off. The good thing with Mookie, he still has some athleticism, and he's been able to prove that he is a really valuable shortstop right now. And so he's been able to go out there and still be able to provide a lot of value despite the offense leaning more towards league average. Tommy Edmonds put up 1.4 WAR. He's cooled off since his really fast start, but still is above league average. Hae-Sung Kim's going out there and still being really effective, 372 batting average, 168 WRC plus. One thing to keep in mind, the 458 batting average on balls in play will drop off at some point. That'll drop, which means his numbers will start to drop just a little bit. But right now, he's going out there and being really, really solid for them. You can also see with Hae-Sung Kim, there's a vast difference between his WOBA and expected WOBA. So it's possible that there could be some negative regression at some point. But you got to give it up. You can't complain too much about the production that Hae-Sung Kim's been able to do. Teoscar Hernandez, 120 WRC plus. His WAR is significantly diminished from what you might have expected, only because his defense is below league average. I think everything except for defensive run saves would probably indicate that. But he's still going out there and being a solid offensive piece, especially aided by what he was able to do early in the season. Then you have some other players right here. Dalton Rushing was able to boost his WRC plus to 99. You have Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, some other players that have been on the roster. And then you have Michael Conforto right here, which, for the most part, I have been of the opinion that it is appropriate to wait to see what happens with Michael Conforto, to wait and give an extended period of time for him to be able to figure things out. And we'll get into the June numbers in just a second, but for a season as a total, we're now dealing with 253 plate appearances, and it is a 165 batting average, 296 on base percentage, 269 slugging percentage, a 69 WRC plus, which is worth, according to Fangraphs, negative 0.7 WAR. This is starting to get to the point to where you can start to have that discussion. Okay, is Michael Conforto, can we realistically say that he's going to be able to get out of it? Or is there any sort of the splits that we can see of which Michael Conforto has been redeeming himself? Or, so for example, if you don't have great numbers overall, but you're really good against left-handed pitching or right-handed pitching, okay, there's a justifiable matchup in which you can face that particular type of matchup. With Michael Conforto, I think he's better against left-handed pitching, still below league average. I think it's a 94 WRC plus and a 62 WRC plus against right-handed pitching, which is well below league average against the side in which he should be better at. So it's been very much a struggle with Michael Conforto. I don't like dragging players down, especially when they are struggling. But that is something very much to keep in mind, especially because we are starting to get to the point to where you have to have the conversations about what to do. Throughout minor league baseball today, you're starting to see a lot of different moves get made. And the Dodgers haven't announced any. I wouldn't necessarily expect them to announce anything maybe until tomorrow if they decide to make any sort of transactions. But we're through the halfway point in the minor league baseball season, and we're about at the halfway point of the big league season, the Major League Baseball season. So you're starting to see teams make an evaluation of where players are at. And this was really a big month for Michael Conforto, and it really has not gone well. Let's actually bring up the numbers for June, sorted by WAR, to see on the offensive side where players are at. And you can see based off of Michael Conforto, it's been a 140, 218, 220, and a 27 WRC plus, which is worth negative 0.4 Fangraphs WAR in the month of June, which has been a really very much a struggle for him. There's other players that have been struggling this month. Freddie Freeman, surprisingly, only has a 51 WRC plus this month. It's been worth negative WAR. Teoscar Hernandez, 66 WRC plus. Looking at some of the other players, Mookie Betts, 92 WRC plus, positive WAR because of his defense, but still 257 this month. Hasn't been a great month for Mookie Betts. So you want to see, as was mentioned by CNEV had mentioned, those big three, the Shohei Ohtani, the Mookie Betts, the Freddie Freeman, be able to produce offensively. Luckily this month, Will Smith, Andy Pages, and Max Muncy have been absolutely phenomenal, and they have really helped this carry this offense through the course of this month. But when it comes to players, and when it comes to certain decisions, I typically wait, especially on the Major League Baseball season. I'm going to wait until July 1st, or possibly next Monday if I do a show next Monday, because it'll be June 30th, before I start making an evaluation and start determining, okay, this is exactly what I think this team might need, and start putting out different names for the Dodgers to be able to go target, because that gives a large enough sample size, enough ample time for the Dodgers to be able to do stuff in-house. With Michael Conforto, with where he's at right now, it's getting to a point where you have large enough sample, and as much, especially with him, he needs to be a player that produces offensively to be able to provide value. You saw Max Muncy, who is in the exact same situation, needs to produce offensively to be able to provide this team value. He has been able to figure things out and turn it around. And unfortunately for Michael and unfortunately for the Dodgers, Michael Conforto just hasn't been able to do that this year. I don't really know how to explain it. Some of the exit velos remain relatively solid. He's still able to limit some of the chase, but things just haven't been working out for him. So eventually the Dodgers are going to have to make a decision, whether that's in the starting lineup, perhaps starting a little bit more of Ha-Seong Kim, who, just looking at some of the numbers, could be a little bit of worrying signs as far as, okay, things are going to regress back to the mean. Where do things actually end up? Because I don't think Ha-Seong Kim is forever going to be a 372 hitter or a 160 WRC plus type of hitter. But he's able to provide some defensive things, especially in the infield, that might make this team overall better. So I think the organization is starting to have some of those conversations and is gathering enough of a large sample size to be able to see, okay, where are these players at this point of their career? Where are these players at this point of the season? And what do we have to do going forward? This doesn't mean, by the way, that I think this is the biggest need that the Dodgers have. As we'll get into the pitching, we'll provide an update to that spreadsheet that I brought up maybe about a week or two ago on this show. We'll take a look at about where the pitching is at. Doesn't mean that I think the biggest need for the Dodgers to go out there and trade or give up a ton of resources to go out and get an outfielder and replacement for Michael Conforto, because I think pitching is a much bigger need. But it is an evaluation to say, okay, this very much is a struggle. Having a negative 0.7 Fangraphs WAR player on your team is not really helping things on the field, especially if he's getting a prominent role. I think the organization's understanding that, and I trust the organization's process and what they feel like they have to do to make this team good. I, going into the season, believed that the Dodgers were going to keep around Chris Taylor, in part because of what he's done to the organization, in part because he was close to his 10 years of service time, and in part because he had a $13-15 million contract for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And very quickly it became apparent to the Dodgers that they had to move on, and they decided to move on from Chris Taylor, who had meant a lot to this organization and had built up 10 years of service time. I don't think the organization's going to have any sort of hesitation if they have a good answer to replace a player like a Michael Conforto when the time is right. So the question that remains is there a good player that can replace him and be successful in whatever role is presented, not just for the player that replaces Michael Conforto, but whatever the domino pieces that are going to follow as such. Do you believe that Ha-Seong Kim is going to continue to be very dominant, very effective, which I will keep giving him credit. He has continued to be so impressive at the big league level. Do you anticipate that to continue going forward in a perhaps expanded role? Or what do you have to do to make this team as good as it possibly can be? Those are the questions that have to be answered for the organization to be able to move forward. Michael K., I mean, MLB doesn't like position players pitching, so if a pitcher is pitching but labeled as an outfielder and it's within the rules, I don't see what's the problem. Dating back to Michael's idea of, instead of Michael Conforto, having a pitcher be listed as a position player and then coming in to pitch at late game situations. I think other organizations would see that, know exactly what's going on, and put a stop to that. And Major League Baseball, I think, doesn't have an interest of bending the rules to that degree. I think there's a lot of movement that you can have with bending the rules, but I think they would probably step in and limit some of that. But if they could get away with it, I would definitely be open, and I think the Dodgers would 100% jump on board because I think they want as many pitchers as possible. Part of the reason why you're seeing Kike Hernandez go out there and pitch a lot of innings, while it is starting to wear off, while the novelty of it is not quite as amusing, it makes total sense. Because the Dodgers are trying to limit the number of bullets their arms are throwing. Bullets meaning the number of pitches their pitchers are throwing. They're trying to limit that as much as possible to make sure that they don't have to utilize them during games in which they might not need it during the regular season, and use them during an opportunity to where it actually is meaningful in the postseason, especially because it seems like pitchers are a little bit of a ticking time bomb as far as when there is going to potentially be some sort of injury that takes place. Any sort of thing that you can do to be able to limit the wear and tear on your guys, I think the organization is going to look for whatever way possible that they can to be able to limit that. I just don't think that this is something that they are going to be able to do. Michael K. brings up another interesting point. Move Mookie back to the outfield is better for his bat, and that's better for the team. If Mookie truly has no equal, he'll be on board. One of the things that with Mookie Betts, something to keep in mind, he is not as athletic or as quick as he once was. I think when a lot of people bring up move Mookie Betts back to the outfield, I think they are expecting him to be the exact same player that he was in 2020, 21, 22, a lot of those different years. And I don't think Mookie Betts is quite to that level of player that he once was. I think Mookie Betts is still very incredibly athletic, and I think there is a argument to be made that shortstop in and of itself, because of the work that has to be done at the shortstop position, and because of Mookie Betts' determination to be a really good shortstop, which defensively he has been a really good shortstop, I think there's a good argument to be made that some of that could be taken away from his ability on the offensive side. There's also the argument that if you look at the numbers last year, Mookie Betts was better as a shortstop than what he was as an outfielder when he was playing the shortstop position, which can lead to a lot of arguments of maybe it's not the shortstop position, maybe it's just the health issues that he was dealing with early in the season, maybe it's just a slump that Mookie Betts is in. As far as moving Mookie Betts to the outfield, I'm not fully on board with that. I'm not fully on board with him moving off of a shortstop position unless it becomes apparent to Mookie Betts, unless it becomes apparent to the Los Angeles Dodgers that is the reason why he's not able to play well offensively. The Dodgers do have some options if Mookie Betts was able to move off a shortstop. You do have Tommy Edman. You do have Ha-Seong Kim, who has a little bit of experience, although Tommy Edman has not played shortstop at all this season. You do have Miguel Rojas, who can fill in. You do have Alex Freeland down at the minor league level, who, if he were to be called up, I don't think he gets called up to replace Michael Conforto, unless it's for a more prominent role, meaning a starting at least 4 to 5 times a week type of role. I don't think they necessarily do that at this point because I think that's what he needs right now. So Mookie Betts, I think he wants to probably be on the infield. Good argument to be made that to limit some of the wear and tear, which we talked a lot about before the season, it probably would be best for him to play at second base as opposed to shortstop. But that's not something that I have a lot of inside information of, so we'll wait and see what happens. Mookie Betts is clearly in a bit of a funk offensively, and I don't know exactly what is causing that. He's just going to have to find a way to be able to battle out of that, and we'll wait to see what Mookie Betts is going to be able to do. I don't doubt his ability to be able to fight out of it. Quality of contact or the swing, some of the swing decisions have been decent, meaning he's drawing a lot of walks, not striking out a whole lot, still able to make contact. Some of the contact quality, though, hasn't been the exact same for Mookie Betts as it's been. In fact, it's been drastically down from what it has been in years past. So I don't know what exactly is going on with Mookie Betts. We'll wait and see what happens. As far as moving him into the outfield, I want to do that at this point. I think you can probably find some outfielders a lot easier than what it is to be able to find shortstops. And especially when you have a shortstop that is one of the better defensive shortstops in the game, which Mookie Betts is one of the better defensive shortstops by a lot of different metrics in the game right now. I think that has some value in and of itself. But you certainly want to see a lot more from Mookie Betts because you know he's capable of a lot more. In 1988, I think we need Dalton full-time, have him platoon at catcher and left field. It's an interesting thought. It's one that we're going to hear quite a bit. Is Dalton Rushing playing out in left field? If they wanted Dalton Rushing to play more in left field, that he would have spent more time in Oklahoma City practicing more in left field. He does not have enough experience to be able to play left field at a major league level. He has about a month and a half's worth of experience last year in Oklahoma City and maybe one game this year. That is not enough time. You probably need a full 3 to 4 months learning a new position before you could probably feel comfortable with putting them in that type of position. I totally get it. And I totally get wanting Dalton Rushing to go out there and play more. He needs to play more. And you saw with some of his plate appearances during the game yesterday, you could start to see some of that in Dalton Rushing, his plate discipline that he has up there, his ability to go out there and make some solid contact. Some of his exit velos are really solid for Rush this season, and I think the more that he plays, the more he will adapt to big league pitching. You'll start to see some of that swing and miss really drop off. Finding a role, finding a spot for him that doesn't just include backing up Will Smith, while that is the most important role that Dalton Rushing is going to be able to play, it's going to be a very difficult decision for the Dodgers. I don't think it's left field at this point. I think he needs significantly more time than that. And I don't know if learning it at the big league level, one of my biggest complaints about bringing guys up from the farm system, I don't think learning it at the big league level is the best thing for players coming up through the system to be able to do. So that's what I would push back with a little bit, but I totally get the sentiment about Dalton Rushing wanting to get him more playing time because it's one of the players that I believe in most and I think could really be impactful this season for not just this season, but for seasons to come, and to be one of the most important guys within the system to come up and make an impact. Let's continue to go a couple here. In 1980, Max did this last year. He carried the Dodgers while others struggled. In fact, last year he had 2 home run game followed by the next game with a grand slam. Definitely goes on some hot streaks and definitely goes on some really good streaks to help carry this offense even when others struggle. You see a lot of noise, you see a lot of variability within the game of baseball in a 162-game season. So having Max Muncy go out there and be able to carry the load a little bit during certain stretches is very, very helpful. CNAV's Kim, it's greater than Conforto, and then also mentions bringing up Wardo. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. If they decide to move on from Michael Conforto, which Michael Conforto has had 250 plate appearances, the guy that I would likely turn to would not be Alex Freeland at this point, only because I think the role that Alex Freeland would join into would likely be a diminished role. unless they decide to move Mookie Betts to second base and then shortstop opens up and you have a more prominent role for Alex Freeland to go out there and play. I would anticipate Ryan Ward to be able to get that opportunity, or at least that would be my hope, would be if they decide to turn to somebody internally, Ryan Ward would be the one that has earned it the most. You look at his offensive numbers on the season. Ryan Ward, outfielder for Oklahoma City, been part of the system for quite a while. 318 plate appearances, 302 batting average, 393 on base percentage, 571 slugging. He's put up a 143 WRC plus for the Oklahoma City Comets. Walks about 13% of the time. It's a 20% strikeout percentage. Profile-wise, fits very similarly to what Michael Conforto is. Not the greatest defense in the outfield. He's played some first base in part because he has to find some sort of role to be able to fit out there. But he's going to rely more on his bat to be able to provide production. He has, I believe, 18 home runs on the season, does Wardo. So if you're looking for somebody in-house to potentially be the replacement, that would be the potential guy. We can talk about external options, perhaps starting next week is when I'll start talking about potential external additions to be able to add to this mix. But I also don't think that this is going to be a big name that they're going to be looking for. I don't think they're going to be looking for guys like Luis Robert Jr., who has been struggling massively during the course of this season. I don't think they're going to go after any massive names on the offensive side, because I think when they have, even with Michael Conforto, best offense in the game of baseball, they don't necessarily need to go out there and do that, especially because if they get somebody and then you're looking up and down this roster, there's no place for Kike Hernandez to start in the postseason, or there's no place for Hae-Sung Kim to get any sort of prominent playing time and role. So we'll see what happens with that. But Wardo would be the one, if there is an internal replacement for a Michael Conforto, that's who I would turn to. So I would agree with you with that. Vin 1988, Cameron Dalton needs to be playing now. I hope Conforto proves this all around. I hope he does too. I hope all of this is... I hope he's able to go out there and provide a lot of success and go on a hot streak in July, like a player like Gavin Lux went to late last season. I hope he's able to go on some sort of streak. You have to make some sort of decision at some point, so we'll wait and see what happens with that. Let's get to maybe a couple more. Actually, let's go ahead. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go into let's transition a little bit. Let's go on the pitching side a little bit. Because I want to continue, because this is the biggest need where the Dodgers are finding themselves right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to look at the exact same spreadsheet that we were looking at previously. I showed this, created this, and showed this on the show maybe about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, one of those shows on Monday. And essentially what this is I divide all the pitchers that the Dodgers have used, which they've used 34 pitchers before the halfway point of the season. I think last year they used about 40 or so. They're already on pace to get 40 to 50 pitchers throughout the course of the season because of how many injuries that they've had. But I divided it up. Blue meaning guys that would be ideal options going into the postseason. These can change. Obviously, the guys that have the red pluses are guys that are injured. So some of these guys are out with injury or will be out with injury through the course of the season. Then you have these guys in orange, which are the minor league baseball depth that they have. And the ones in green are additional arms that are part of the mix, what I call the designatable type of arms, meaning that if other guys were healthy, I don't know if they would be necessarily part of the mix. And the reason why I divide this up is because if you look at the overall numbers for the Dodgers, I believe they're 23rd. I can't remember if they're 23rd. They might be 24th in ERA across Major League Baseball. You look at their FIP, they're about 24th. Expected FIP, they're 16th. Sierra, which is another ERA estimator, meaning there's a lot of different ways to be able to emulate ERA with different weights that you can do, similar to how WRC Plus tries to, instead of just taking every single hit as if it has the exact same value, provide different values for different offensive outcomes. Home runs better than singles. That's the point. Sierra is another one that seems to be pretty good at that. You can see all the numbers if you take into account everybody that has pitched for the Dodgers this season. Not great. They have been decent about getting strikeouts, and then these other aspects. But what I want to do, and this is the area that's of most relevance to me, is the ideal postseason arms. Because I don't care if the Dodgers have a low ERA, but a lot of that is coming from Kike Hernandez, who has a 15.19 ERA, or other arms that they aren't going to use in the postseason. I care about the arms that they are actually going to use in the postseason. And so these are a little bit more of the rankings that they have from there. You can see if you were to make an unfair comparison of the ERA that the ideal postseason options have in comparison to every team's all of their arms, they would be 8th in baseball. Totally unfair comparison because it doesn't remove any of the arms that other teams have had that are in similar situations. But that's a little bit of a better situation. 3.58, 3.99 FIP, 3.87 xFIP, 3.75 SIERA. These are estimations. They're based off of unrounded values, so don't take these with 100% certainty. They would be really good, really solid at generating strikeouts. So there's some good options. And so typically what you want to see with the spreadsheet is you want to see a lot of red from the club. But what we can see right here, there's a lot of blue that is had particularly on the starting pitching side. Yoshi Yamamoto with averaging all of these different values for ERA still has been solid, but it has been a lot more shaky as of late. I still expect him to be solid. Dustin May, this is an arm where he's been healthy. He's been healthy for a lot longer than what he has been in his career, but the numbers aren't necessarily great really anywhere for him. 4.46 ERA, 4.63 expected ERA, 4.54 FIP. You can see all of these numbers are around league average to slightly below league average. You want to see some of these over the course of the next month turn around for Dustin May because you want to make an evaluation as far as where does Dustin May fit into any type of postseason rotation. And I've stated, based on the numbers that I've seen and based off the place where I've seen Dustin May do, assuming that he's going to be healthy going into postseason time, I'd be fine with him being a number 4 starter. I would be very worried if he was number 3, and I'd be terrified if he was a number 2 starter going into a postseason. With the numbers that he's putting up right now, I think that's kind of a fair output. Tony Gonsolin, Roki Sasaki, I don't know what to expect with both of them, nor do I think that their organization is going to expect much from them going forward, but they're injured right now. Clayton Kershaw, with the numbers he's put up, 3.31 ERA, 3.93 expected ERA. His numbers have been getting a lot better. What do you expect for Clayton Kershaw going forward? Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell. We did see Tyler Glasnow rehab in Oklahoma City. Casey was there yesterday, so if you have any questions about Tyler Glasnow's performance, direct them to Casey. They've gone up. Haven't really pitched a lot. I wouldn't really be too concerned about their outings. What you can see, though, and this is where there's a lot of strength, but they've also used these guys quite a bit. The bullpen has been really solid, and you can see all throughout here, really solid numbers. A lot of red is being able to have. You can see the average ERA estimators all together. Ben Kasparius, 3.11. Jack Dreyer, 3.12. Tanner Scott, 2.90. Alex Vesia, 3.34. Kirby Yates, 3.08. There's a lot of good options that are being had in this bullpen, and you can see a lot of swing and miss strikeout stuff. So when it comes to their pitchers and when it comes to an evaluation process, and the reason why I'm using that as opposed to fan graphs, I think the color aspect actually makes it a lot easier for people to be able to see the grand scope of where things are at with the organization, where the team's at. Pitching wise, it still remains a question as far as, and will be the question that gets asked until we get to the July 31st. I think it's the July 31st trade deadline this upcoming year. Until we get to the trade deadline, what is the health of the pitching staff? which means it's a very good sign when players like a Tyler Glasnow are coming back, because that's potentially one additional arm that you could have. It's very good when you're seeing Edgardo Henriquez go out there and continue his rehab starts. When Emmett Sheehan, who, despite being optioned down to Oklahoma City, I don't believe that add anything at all, which you can hear from Emmett Sheehan here on Dodgers Daily. Casey just released an interview with him that he had from over the weekend today. Go check that out. I don't believe it doesn't really have anything to do with injury-wise, but more has to do with continuing to ramp him up and build him up to be a starter that they can rely upon. Because when he was out there, Emmett Sheehan looked amazing. 40% strikeout percentage during his very limited time out there is really, really good. I think we're all excited to see more of him. Very good that he's coming back. Very good that guys like Edgardo Henriquez, or even guys like a Luis Garcia coming back, being able to provide additional innings from this team. Where are those guys going to be at, and what is the anticipation is the biggest question that the Dodgers have, and could be the thing that could hold them back. And especially if you look at this and you don't know necessarily what you're going to get from the starting pitching realm, but you know that your bullpen is really solid, and you anticipate there being a lot of stuff that you can do on the bullpen side. Well, then, if that's the case, you don't really want to wear out your bullpen arms and the arms that are the most effective for your club. You don't want to wear them out too much if you're going to have to rely upon them in the postseason. Which, if we don't see a whole lot coming up injury-wise or the build-up-wise for a lot of their starters, they're going to rely upon a lot of their bullpen arms, which means every single instance that you can get from other players like Lou Trevino, who has pitched a lot recently, players like they brought up with Will Klein, who might seem random, but anything that he's able to contribute is going to add and make sure that the organization doesn't have to use as much from guys like a Tanner Scott or Anthony Banda or Kirby Yates. Any additional innings that they can get can help save the innings for some of the other arms later in the year for a different time. So the pitching staff overall does not look great. You dive into a little bit of numbers as far as the arms that the Dodgers might actually rely upon in the postseason. Okay, you start to feel a little bit better. 3.58 isn't the greatest in the world. It's not the greatest in baseball, and probably would rank a little bit lower if you were to take out other teams, players that don't meet the criteria of ideal postseason arms. But it starts to paint a little bit of a better picture. Where the arms are at and whether they're going to be healthy enough for the postseason, it is going to determine what the Dodgers are going to do at the trade deadline. And they have resources to be aggressive. They have resources to go out there and make some moves. But you also have to make the right moves. And with an organization that does not want to overspend on players, they might have to get a little bit uncomfortable if they get some bad news over the course of the next month. Or if they feel like things are not progressing to the way that they are wanting to. Very curious to see what happens in upcoming starts at the minor league level for a guy like an Emmett Sheehan. How are they going to build him up continually going forward? I believe if he was at the big league level, he probably would have started at the game on Tuesday. Might have done a little bit of a piggyback start with him and Robo. And this is without any inside information. It would make a lot of sense for Justin Robleski to be able to pitch on the game on Tuesday in Colorado, only because he last pitched, I believe it was on Wednesday, it had 74 pitches during that game. Probably will be getting a good chunk of the game, maybe with an opener, or he might just go out there and start the game. Justin Robleski pitching really well as of late. I'm curious to see the build-up with Emmett Sheehan. I'm curious to see the build-up with Shohei Ohtani going forward. I know we would have all liked to see him go out there and pitch more innings, but I know the Dodgers have a plan, and they know that they want to do what they can to be able to get him to a place to where he is effective and ready to go for October. So as much as we would like to see him pitch a lot in June, or in July, or in August, doing whatever they can to make sure that he is available and healthy if they need him in October is the most important thing for the Dodgers. So, pitching-wise, hasn't been great when you make comparisons to the league. I think there's a lot of good underlying stuff, but there certainly is going to be some stuff that gets done over the course of the next month, especially if health is slow to improve. The Dodgers have invested too much into this club to stand put and not do everything they can to go out there and win a World Series. So we'll wait and see what happens. It'll be... The Dodgers are in a good place right now. And I think that despite all of the concern of where they're at pitching-wise, Michael Conforto-wise, they're still going to be in a really good spot. We'll have to wait and see what happens over the course of the next couple of weeks, see which teams actually end up being sellers, and then we'll see what the Dodgers are able to do. They'll be opportunistic, probably won't be the flashiest, at least that's not my anticipation, but they'll probably do what they can to be able to improve the club, and they've already got a talented club, they have enough talent to, if you were to enter any postseason series, you got to give the Dodgers a good chance to win. So, I'm still happy with the club. CNev, Pages, Wardo, Haesung Kim, and crushing, making a great youth movement. Yeah, that would be seeing some of the young players come up. I've mentioned this a lot on the show, so I don't want to repeat this too much. Seeing the younger players come up and have some success, some of the most important things that the Dodgers could have happened for the season. It is a significantly better thing for the organization. If you were to choose one between Michael Conforto and Andy Pages, it is significantly better for the organization that Andy Pages is having an all-star-like season as compared to a Michael Conforto, because Andy Pages is going to be on the club for years to come with a cheap contract that allows you to make other decisions or other moves in the organization, whereas Michael Conforto, 1-year deal. If the Dodgers were to bring him back, which at this point, based on the success that he's had, not very likely, if they were to bring him back, it would be for a lot of money, not on the league minimum and not on a cheap, controllable deal where you have the aging curve on the side with Andy Pages. To see that not just with Andy Pages, but to see Haesung Kim have some success, to see Dalton Rushing be part of this movement and provide additional rest to make sure that Will Smith is as effective as he is. See those players come up. Potentially some other players come up through the system too. I've talked a lot about it. The Dodgers organization, hitting-wise, and especially in the outfield, oh my goodness. It is as good as I've ever seen it for the Dodgers outfield coming up with the young talent that they have. Not just Ryan Ward, but they have Zaire Hope and Josue de Paula hitting well in Great Lakes. You have Mike Sirota, who has really emerged this season at Great Lakes. Eduardo Quintero is the best hitter in minor league baseball this season by weighted runs above average, and he steals a ton of bases too. You have other players that are coming up through the system and being really effective offensively. The talent in the outfield is really good. You have an Alex Freeland, who is a really solid shortstop prospect right on the door of the big leagues. If he can figure out some of the swing and miss stuff, that's a really good thing. There's a lot of good things that are happening within the organization and the youth movement. I think especially, and let's bring this back to the conversation about Mookie Betts. There's going to be some decline in offensive production with Mookie Betts. And the Dodgers have Mookie Betts signed until the 2032 season. So that's going to be through his age, I believe, 39 season. He's 32 right now. So you're going to have a lot more years of Mookie Betts. And I don't think it's going to be at the exact same level of production of what he's been throughout his career. It's not going to be always a 140 WRC plus player. You might see Mookie Betts turn into more of a 120 WRC plus player, 115 over the course of the next couple of years, which is not the level of production, especially if his athleticism starts to decline a little bit. Not exactly the type of production that you would want for in that type of player. But if for that type of contract, but if you're able to supplement that with younger players who are just getting better and better and able to equal out the production of players that are getting up there in age, that's the best thing that can happen. That means that you're still getting value for Mookie Betts, because I think he's still going to provide a lot of value, and You're getting young players that can help lead the charge, lead the movement coming up. So I'm really excited about the progress that the younger players are having and how much that they're learning, adapting, and growing within the system. It makes me not want to trade a lot of guys this year, even though I know for the health of the organization, they have to win in 2025. And I know that they're starting to get very much a logjam in the outfield at the minor league level, but it makes me not want to trade a lot of these guys because I see how talented each one of these guys are, and I want to see a lot of these guys up at the big league level. But they're going to have to make some decisions, make some sort of evaluations, and potentially have to move some of these guys at some point because you can't have a 8 or 9 man outfield. That's not going to work for the Dodgers. Let's see. Just continuing, maybe 1 or 2 more comments. CNAV says, hit the like button for Austin Brubaker. He also says, I'm sure we'll see Nick Ahmed or Ahmed Rosario at the trade deadline. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Showtime LA, Hope, Josue de Paula, Quintero, and Sirota are all studs. We might have too many outfielders. Yeah, it would be, those guys are... I wouldn't say you have too many outfielders, although I certainly get the argument, especially if you take into account some of the other tools that other players within the system, Jose Ramos, Chris Newell, Damon Keith, all very much raw tools that have in this system. There's a lot of good tools that the organization has in the outfield. Quintero, Josue de Paula, Zaire Hope, and Mike Sirota have been unbelievable offensively. We'll see how quickly they move him up. This might be a point to where the organization makes a decision, only because you're seeing a lot of other organizations. First half of the season is concluding. Other organizations make decisions of where players are at. Just kind of going back to the topic that we've been talking about. Offensively, this team is unbelievable. Max Muncy goes out there and proves himself as a really good third baseman. He's going to be the third baseman of the Los Angeles Dodgers next year. Unless things change rather drastically, with the production that he's put up over the past couple of months, and with the affordable contract that he has for the Dodgers next year, I don't see much of a world to where the Dodgers don't pick up that contract and decide to roll with Max Muncy going forward. I think that is a really good deal for the organization for him to be able to do that and continue forward. We'll keep an eye out with the continued progression with Mookie Betts this year. If it continues to be a struggle, I don't know if it's a batting order situation. I'm not super huge into changing out the batting order a ton, just because I don't really study that a whole lot. Not my area of expertise, nor do I'm more concerned about getting really good players, as many plate appearances as possible, and so that's when you can make some talk about batting order and making some switches to that. We'll keep an eye out Mookie Betts, whether it's a batting order thing, whether it's a just have to figure out this groove, or whether it's a more serious, potentially change some position, whether this year or in future years, because shortstop might be too taxing a position. And then it is a continued wait to see what happens on the pitching side, because the talent is there for the Dodgers, meaning they do have a lot of talented pitchers. But a lot of them, we have to wait to see if they're going to be available and healthy. And if there's any sort of serious question, the organization is going to have some alternative plan to be able to make it. And so figure out what happens. So next week on Monday, we might dive into a little bit of an overview like it was today, but we might start introducing some potential names to keep an eye out for. I didn't want to do it today because I want to wait until as close to July as I possibly can to give guys as much of a time to be able to figure things out, and also to see where the injuries are at. As we start to potentially look at names that you potentially could go after other players on other teams that are struggling, that are having really good seasons, we're going to start to dive into a little bit of that, with the understanding that the organization is going to do everything they can to keep things as in-house, but also doing what is best for the organization, doing what is best for the team. We might take a little bit look at some of that next week, because they will be about a month until the trade deadline hits, and certainly the Dodgers, while they are a very good team, they're not a perfect team. Coming up, there's no Dodgers game today. They will be playing 3 games in Colorado against the Colorado Rockies. My expectation for the series, obviously, you want to see them go out there and have a really successful series. Clayton Kershaw, I believe, is expected to pitch the game on Thursday. He's currently 8 strikeouts away from 3,000. I wouldn't anticipate him to reach 8 strikeouts on Thursday, meaning he likely will have a very good chance to complete it in his next start, probably against the Chicago White Sox in Dodger Stadium, which would be just absolutely phenomenal. We'll see what happens, though. Obviously, I think one of the most important things is to go out there, provide innings, win the game, and keep your eyes on October. But it would be a really special moment to be able to do that in front of Dodger Stadium, in front of the fans that have supported him since 2008? He was in Great Lakes in 2007, so I'm trying to get the exact years correct. Actually, got to see Clayton Kershaw when he was in Midland in 2007, so I was 7, 8 years old. I don't really remember it a whole lot. But to see him come up through the system and be a Hall of Fame pitcher, and then him being able to reach 3,000 strikeouts is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Don't underestimate how big of a moment that is for him, for the history of the game, and for the Dodgers organization. That'll be coming up. They have the series against the Colorado Rockies. They will, after that, play in Kansas City against a Kansas City Royals team that has been really weird. Playoff team last year. Hasn't been able to hit very well this season. Has some pitchers out there. Be an interesting series. These are opportunities for the Dodgers to go out there and hopefully win 4 out of the next 6 or 5 out of the next 6 and continue to grow on their division lead. That's what you want to go out there and see from this club, is continued growth, to continue to progress as we get through about the halfway point. We still have half of a season to be able to look at for this organization, for this club. At the minor league level, just talking about some things at the minor league level, on whatever show that we do with Casey this week, we might dive into a little bit of the minor league system, perhaps a little bit more in depth. I propose this to Casey. It might be something that we do a little bit, talking about first half highlights from across the system. There's a lot of players that did really well in the first half. All 4 main affiliates within the Dodgers organization, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Great Lakes, and Rancho Cucamonga, finished their first half this past week. And so taking a look to see, okay, who are the players that really stood out at the minor league level during the first half might be something that we take a look at, dive into as we have time throughout the course of this week. Again, I'll be in Fort Wayne a lot this week, seeing Great Lakes continue their season down there, seeing some of the players go out there and hopefully have some success against the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. So we'll have to find exactly what sort of time works out for us to be able to do that. But we'll try to find some time for Casey and I to be able to do some sort of live show. In addition, there's going to be a lot of player interviews that Casey has been able to do. Hopefully we'll be able to, and I know Mark Watkins was in, one of the other contributors here at Dodgers Daily, was in Rancho Cucamonga on, I believe it was Friday. He was in Rancho on Friday and was able to talk to some of the people. So maybe we'll be able to see some of the stuff from him coming up pretty soon. But that's going to do it here, Dodgers Dawgs, as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Been a really fun show. Been able to talk a lot back and forth about it, some of the numbers that the Dodgers have. Didn't really dive into a whole lot of a series recap against the Washington Nationals. I apologize for that. If you want more detailed analysis on that, Casey and Coach Barikoff did a show yesterday, so I would point you to that show to be able to go into a little bit more detail. The Dodgers are in a good place as an organization. Obviously, when you're in first place, when you're one of the best teams in baseball, when you have some of the most talented players in the game of baseball, it is a continued grind to get through this season. Luckily, with the Dodgers schedule and where they are at, they have an opportunity to take advantage and grow this lead that they have in the division. And it's not just about the division, it's also about potential seeding for the postseason. So yes, they want to do everything they can to win every single game. But also they have to keep in mind to keep this team, how to keep this team as healthy as they can going into the postseason. You don't want to pitch Tanner Scott every single day, even though that gives you a better chance to win going into that game and gives you potentially a better seeding, because you want Tanner Scott to be healthy in the postseason. So the organization has that in mind, and the organization is doing everything they can to make this team as ready to go for the postseason as they possibly can be. And all the moves that they're making, even the optioning Emmett Sheehan down to the minor league level. Well, it seems confusing. While they totally could use Emmett Sheehan at the major league level, that decision was not made lightly, and that decision was made with an intended purpose to go out there and make this team ready for October baseball. And I'm sure Emmett Sheehan will be seeing a lot more innings at the big league level this season as they continue to ramp him up, and potentially could be playing a role. I know a lot of these players that are part of this team, the organization very much sees the talent level that they have and what they've been able to do. And eventually the organization is going to make some sort of decision as far as what's best and what's going to put this team as in the best possible position to win in October. That's going to do it here. Dodgers Dawgs is part of the Dodgers Daily Network. There will be more interviews from players coming up, so stay tuned for that. Casey will be releasing those at some point. I don't know if there will be one tonight, but there should be at least one, possibly two. I don't know how many Casey is planning on doing, but he will be releasing some additional interviews coming up over the course of the next couple of days. Be sure to check them out. We will be back with another live show coming up over the course of the next couple of days. Keep an eye out for that as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's an absolute blessing to be able to do this every single time. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. Go Dodgers.